Hello, I'm Mishka, and this channel is the Helsinki Renaissance, where we will be talking about arts and culture, and hopefully the most Renaissance man-like manner which arts and culture may be discussed. At least that's the plan. Now, I just did a video in this Criterion catch-up series where I was sort of explaining how it is that I am specifically interested in the Criterion collection whilst still evaluating the new releases on a case-by-case basis rather than, as some do, just being sort of generally interested in getting all Criterion ones. So I'm by no means a completist when it comes to the Criterion collection. Like, my completist tendencies are such that I would want to see everything released by something like the Criterion collection, so that I don't want to be ignorant when it comes to any kind of new additions to whatever kind of different film canons there might be, so that I have a specific how should I go about this terminology? I'm generally interested in, like, if Criterion Collection releases something, I'll want to watch it, but I don't necessarily want to have it on the Criterion Collection. So I guess hopefully that explanation makes some sense. If it doesn't, then we are truly at the heartlands of why I'm even doing this Criterion catch-up video, because my stances towards some of these things are so quirky that even I can't apparently explain some of the kind of ins and outs of the situation. But like my form of completism isn't one of a collector, it's one of the kind of film buff who just wants to see all of this. I've met a couple of other film buffs throughout my youth who have the same kind of attitude that if something like they shoot pictures, don't they? If they have a list of 1,000 movies, then some individuals want to watch all of those 1,000 movies. If American Film Institute or Sight and Sound releases a list of top 100 best whatever, then some individuals want to be completist as far as having watched all of those films. So I would have that type of completist attitudes, but not a collector's completist attitudes. So it's just, I don't know how to explain why. It's just, well, I guess I'm doing these videos trying to explain why, but yeah, that's just, well, we are doing these videos because we are doing these videos, and hopefully some explanations get explained. But anyway, so because I just did that video trying to explain my stance towards the Criterion collection, I realized that perhaps there is another video which maybe should be titled something like how the Criterion collection looks from Europe, or the Criterion collection from a European perspective. Just as a kind of a brief explanation for Americans of how it is that a European kind of has to see the Criterion collection. So basically, there's two options for an individual who is a film buff not in North America. So either you have a multi-regional Blu-ray player or you don't have one. And I unfortunately do not have a multi-regional Blu-ray player, and I don't even have a multi-regional DVD player. But what I've done is I have an old eMac computer which has a built-in DVD player, and I've changed the region coding on that eMac to play region 1 DVDs. So basically I've turned an old eMac into a North American DVD player. But anyway, so again, it's just that somebody watching this either knows or doesn't know that there are different regions for different continents, and the reason why this is, to the best of my knowledge, is because when there are intellectual property owners, what they do is they lease distribution rights to different companies. And so if there are multiple companies, they buy rights to different titles, and then they want kind of monopolistic rights of not having competition in the market. So basically, if you sell the rights to a given British company, the British companies don't want to be in competition with an American version of the same release. So that the intellectual property holder can sell the rights to an American and sell the rights again to a British, and then sell the rights a third time to an Australian. And they can get 3 paychecks because those different releasers don't want to be in a competition with the Americans or with some of the others. So the reason why there's the region locking is so that there could be more than one situation of selling the rights, because some of the American companies maybe would make competition a bit tighter, say for some Australian releases or something. So you wouldn't really sell rights to Australia without the region locking type situation. That's my understanding. So that's why that's happening. So either a person has a multi-regional DVD player or Blu-ray player and they don't. So I'm one of those who don't, but I've gotten around the region locking due to my old DMAC. So there's that. But anyway, so this is a basic reality to the situation, and due to that basic reality, a European person will have to look at the Criterion collection and divide it into 4 specific types of releases. Maybe you could say 5 types of releases if you look at the Criterion channel and their streaming exclusive titles. But anyway, we'll ignore that for the time being and just focus on the physical media. So the first category of Criterion titles would be releases like this, which are old DVDs that are region free. So this Beauty and the Beast, this version, the Browning version, Leclis, The Ruling Class, Life of Brian, Brazil but with an asterisk, Vidnal and I, and Crazed Fruit. These are some of the old Criterion DVDs that are so old that they don't have a region locking, so that you should be able to play this DVD of Vidnal and I in Japan, in Australia, in Brazil, in Denmark, in South Africa, wherever. This doesn't have any region locking, so anyone could get it. Now this version of Vidnal and I has gone out of print, so you can't get it necessarily due to that. But basically, the first category of Criterion releases are these old region-free DVDs. The second category of Criterions is these region 1 locked DVDs. So either you need a region free player, or you need to turn a computer into your de facto region 1 player. Then the third category are films released in the region B Blu-ray market by Criterion. So Criterion has the British label, where approximately 10% of the Criterion collection titles are in the Criterion B zone, and then there are those titles that are region A locked Blu-rays that wouldn't be available. Now, I don't know whether there are any Criterion titles that are exclusively Blu-ray on physical media and aren't available on DVD form. But anyway, so of the 4 categories, these region-free DVDs, I think they are about 10 to 12% of the collection. I have some more with me, but I didn't bring all of them. The Nanook of the North is one of those old DVDs that is region-free. The earlier version of Andrei Rublev is region-free. The René Clair DVDs such as Under the Roofs of Paris or A Nulla Liberté, those are region-free, and I have them. And I think the Eisenstein Sound Years box is region-free and so on. So I think around 10 to 12% of the Criterion titles are the kind of region-free stuff that theoretic or that everyone can play. Then I think about 80% of Criterion collection would be in this kind of a pile of region-locked stuff. And then for a European person, about 10% of the Criterion stuff would be available on this kind of Criterion UK or Criterion European releases. Now I have more with me than just that pile, but I didn't want to bring everything here. But anyway, so basically, perhaps for a North American, like if I would try to flip the kind of situation, like some individuals in United States might be aware of a British releaser called Eureka Video or Masters of Cinema. Now, for me, there's basically zero difference between me getting a Blu-ray of a Masters of Cinema release like the Leo McCarey film Ruggles of Red Cap, or a DVD version of Bakamatsu Taioden, kind of a mildly obscure big classic of Japanese cinema. But anyway, like for me, there wouldn't be much of a difference between either getting a DVD or Blu-ray. But if an American would be in my situation, they would be able to turn a computer that has a DVD player, they would be able to put it playing European DVDs, so they would more easily be able to get some use out of this. Now, this is a dual disc release, so this isn't the best example, but if this would be a Blu-ray exclusive, they would need a multi-regional Blu-ray player, and they wouldn't so easily be able to get out of that. But basically, for me, it makes no difference whether this Bakamatsu Taioden, whether it's a Blu-ray or a DVD. I just wanted the film, so I just wanted any version that I could get. But in Criterions, I have to ignore all the American Blu-ray Criterions, and I can only get the kind of Criterion DVDs because I can put the computer playing them. So basically, there is this kind of situation that basically, if there are levels to the Criterion collection, levels to the kind of excellence, where I think that people agree that the newest Blu-ray sort of represents the best of the Criterion collection. So if you have a really new Blu-ray, such as this, it is kind of the best of the Criterion collection. And if you have an old DVD such as this, it doesn't really represent the kind of pinnacle of the Criterion collection in a similar manner. So basically for Europeans, we maybe get about 10% of the Criterion collection is available in the kind of pinnacle form. Then maybe around 10% of the collection is available in a manner that's no worse than it's for Americans. But then about 80% of the Criterion collection is available in the kind of situation that when I'm watching these movies on that old eMac, it basically transforms all of these into basically like VHS quality. So basically, when you're looking at just how good the quality is in this kind of Criterion Blu-rays, like if you contrast the kind of step down of watching those Criterions on, like a high definition, like modern widescreen television with all the Blu-ray quality to it, like you consider the step down from that to the kind of old EMAC, it's like watching these, it's like downgrading all of these into a VHS quality. So basically, the only reason why anyone would buy into it is if some of these releases have special features that make it so that you can't get something like you can't get it through any other package, so you have to accept the downgrade just to get some of that. You know, like I won't let go of this version of The Thief of Baghdad if the other version won't have the Martin Scorsese Francis Ford Coppola commentary track, for instance. Or, you know, in this version of Two Lane Blacktop, I love that it has the screenplay as a DVD extra and so on. You know, or this version of Mr. Arcadin has multiple versions of the movie, and also I love the James Naramo, Jonathan Rosenbaum commentary track. So with all of these different versions, for one reason or another, I'm kind of accepting what I would call the kind of VHS downgrade. And I am taking an interest in a lot of these Criterion titles, even though like I basically do have to VHS downgrade on all of these. And they are really far removed from the kind of pinnacle quality that would be in those kind of Criterion Blu-rays. But it's probably something that an American maybe isn't thinking, that I basically only have the kind of undisrupted access because I don't have a multi-regional Blu-ray player. I would gladly have one, I just haven't come across it. And because of some of the market realities that I outlined earlier, they aren't probably trying to make them too available, because it you know, it defeats the purpose of region locking if the more people would facilitate kind of breaking that region locking. Exactly. So perhaps that's why you know, like all PlayStations don't have a region-free Blu-ray player or something, you know, just because some of these companies like Sony are also releasing movies, and they don't want to, you know, inconvenience that cash cow. And so basically what happens is that 80% of the Criterion collection for me is playing in that kind of inconvenienced form. So basically it puts me, like, it kind of turns the Criterion collection into kind of this upside down, inside out situation that people who are in North America perhaps aren't thinking about, in that they mightn't be thinking that if there's around maybe 150 titles on the Criterion collection that are available through the British Blu-ray versions, perhaps Americans aren't thinking of you know, which of the Criterion which of the Criterion titles are available on Blu-ray on both sides of the Atlantic and so on. So, like, I'm not particularly asking Americans to take an interest in it. It's just the kind of a quirky situation of being a non-North American Criterion Blu-ray, or being a non-North American Criterion fan or what have you, and to have the kind of situation of needing to do all of this kind of quirky math about the Criterion collection, of thinking that if some of these would have the kind of VHS downgrade type situation, like how special do these releases need to be for me to still want to get them, even though there's the downgrade? And then you know, what's it like, you know, looking at new Criterion releases and thinking that maybe half of them will be made available in this kind of a European Blu-ray form and so on. So, it's kind of a different way of looking at it, but, I don't mind it too much, because, there are European companies that are releasing some of the same movies that Criterion is releasing. But, sometimes I'm just fine taking what I can get and so on. But sometimes when there is this rumor that Criterion might be putting Andrei Rublev in the kind of British Blu-ray, the way that they have put, the Tarkovsky Criterion Blu-ray is available in Britain. They have Ivan's Childhood, Solaris, and Stalker already, and there was rumors that Andrei Rublev would join that, but then they apparently yanked it. And even though I'm happy that Criterion has those 3 Blu-rays available, the only one that I really wanted was the Andrei Rublev Blu-ray. And so there's a couple of instances where, usually, 95% of the time, I would just be happy that, whatever Criterion chooses to make available in the British Blu-ray, I would just take what I can get and be happy with it. But, some instances, like the Andrei Rublev one, it just sort of hurts that because the Criterion one has the kind of director's cut version, whereas some of the other Andrei Rublevs that are circulating out there, they have the kind of shorter version. So the Criterion Andrei Rublev would be specifically, the way that this is the best version of On the Waterfront that is out there, the Criterion Andrei Rublev would be the best version that's out there. So, that's why, if Criterion chooses to make something like House of Games, the David Mamet movie, available on Blu-ray, I'm okay with it. It's not something that I particularly want. It's not something that I particularly don't want. So it's just kind of like this quirkiness of, will House of Games be available in European Blu-ray or not? If it will be, I'm okay with it. If it won't be, I'm okay with it. So that's my main attitude to everything. If a John Waters movie like Polyester will be available or won't be available, I'm sort of okay either way. That's my main attitude towards everything. But then there are those couple of instances like the Andrei Rublev Blu-ray, which is that would be at the very, very, very top of my wish list. A couple of the Terrence Malick ones, like Days of Heaven or Thin Red Line, which I would greatly appreciate if they were. They have a couple of Terrence Malick Blu-rays available, Badlands and Tree of Life, and I have some preferences, but then I tend to be okay just being happy that some is available. But the Andrei Rublev one, that was one where I got excited that it would be available, and then it was made not available, and then I was disappointed, to say the least. But basically, it's just trying to sort of talk around this situation that for a European person, you do have to look at the Criterion collection a bit differently than for an American because of some of these realities, and just sort of inviting this situation, because for some Americans, they might be absolutely baffled as to why I might prefer this kind of really old Criterion DVDs, but because I actually can watch these on my normal TV setup, and I don't need to have the kind of back to the 90s VHS type stuff with the eMac. So that's why. But yeah, I probably appreciate different titles, different releases in the Criterion collection a bit differently, because the the Criterion Region A Blu-rays, those are the ones that I have the least use for. The ones that I have the second to least use for would be these Region 1 locked DVDs. Then after that, these unlocked DVDs would be the second, and then obviously my preference would be to get these or some of the other ones that I have elsewhere, like the Cocker trilogy and so on. But again, like I will accept getting some of these, even though there's mild inconveniences related to them. But if the releases are just so good, then you have to do it. But anyway, it's just sort of in case anyone's interested, this is sort of how the situation looks from Europe. But anyway, just some brief thoughts about that. Now, if anyone has any thoughts, they can, continue in the comments. But I think that this was about it for this video. I have thought about doing some sort of a top 10 wish list of which Criterion films I would want in European Blu-ray, but I don't know whether I want to make that video, because then I don't want to, I don't want to put my hopes up and then just, because it's not complaining if some House of Games type titles are released. It's like I wouldn't be complaining, because again, House of Games on Blu-ray, on European Blu-ray obviously would be a vast improvement to the kind of Region 1 locked DVD, but just, to help you understand that, there's, I do have preferences, and House of Games wouldn't be absolutely on top of the list. It wouldn't even be in the middle of the list. It would be probably in the kind of lower middle or higher lower end of the list or something, but maybe that would be the kind of title that then would be made available. But it is what it is, and this video is whatever it is. But anyway, I think that that was all the thoughts that I have about this situation, and I thank you for watching. And if you like this video, I hope you'll consider liking some of the earlier videos that are there on the channel. But anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.